For those of you who've just joined us, welcome. And for those of you who are returning, I hope that was an informative session for you, led by Ms. Moore. I know it was for myself. A reminder that for any of you who are on the Envision or other remote sites, you can email your questions to gggh@cdc.gov. And although I've said it many times already, I know some of you are new to the room or new to the Envision sites, so that's again gggh@cdc.gov. And if you're not with CDC, you might be wondering what that stands for. It's Go Green, Get Healthy at cdc.gov. In this afternoon's session, we're going to focus on green procurement, and it'll be led by the General Services Administration with your host, Mr. Shyam Reddy. Mr. Reddy currently serves as the Region Administrator for the Southeast Sunbelt region of the U.S. General Services Administration. Before accepting this presidential appointment, Mr. Reddy practiced corporate law as a partner in the Atlanta office of Kilpatrick Stockton. He served on the board of directors of the University of Georgia's College of Public Health, the University of Georgia's Alumni Association, and Common Cause of Georgia. Please welcome Mr. Shyam Reddy.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. There we go. Yeah, it's St. Patrick's Day. I see a lot of people who are worthy of pinching. I'm from Dublin, Georgia, so I might walk around in a little while and pinch those of you who don't have green on, especially since this is a green conversation. Well, first of all, welcome. It's great to have you here. Before I get into my remarks, I wanted to just introduce my good friend, Michelle Moore, who is going to come up here and tell us about, where's Michelle? Okay. All right. Well, apparently I was supposed to do my remarks after I introduced Michelle. Actually, it's great to be working with Michelle, and I can say this because she's not here, so she can't be the heckler in the audience. But Michelle, as some of you may know, she's from LaGrange, a local town not too far away from Atlanta, and actually the home to Interface, which is a very big corporate, there she is, Michelle, is a corporate leader on sustainability. So it's great to have someone from small town Georgia, having myself come from small town Georgia, serving in such an important role in the administration in terms of helping drive sustainability into our government's DNA. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Michelle to come up here and introduce herself, and then once she's done, I will get into my remarks and introduce the rest of the panel, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
All right, so those of you who've already been here today have already heard a lot from me. So I would just say a couple of words about the session that we're going to be going into. First, for all the people who joined us just this afternoon from our vendor community, from small business, from entrepreneurs, innovators, big companies, wherever you may happen to be from, welcome. It is great to see you. We're thrilled with the partnership that we have with GSA, GSA's reasons, GSA's headquarters, and we think that what we're learning from the listening sessions that we're doing with our supplier community and our potential supplier community is really important. One thing that I will repeat that I said a little bit earlier is part of the explicit aim of the executive order is to really leverage our purchasing power to support American innovation and American entrepreneurship. You know, this is all about winning the future too, right? How can we as the federal government, a big customer, a stable customer, help to turn small, innovative, entrepreneurial businesses into enterprises that are creating good American jobs. And we want to make sure that we connect that goal, that vision that the President has articulated, into how we're working as an organization as well. We're tremendously appreciative of GSA's leadership on this, the partnership that we have, and we're really looking for your open thoughts, your critiques, your ideas, your pats on the back, if there are any of those in there, in this listening session this afternoon, to talk about how we can do better, how we can be a great neighbor, and how we can be a great partner in helping to achieve these goals. So thank you so much for the kind introduction, and I'm guessing I should just go ahead and take my seat over here then, right? All right.
As a listening session, it's a little bit more informal than you might typically see. Well, first of all, on behalf of GSA, Nancy Gillis and I welcome you to the second part of today's Greening Government Conversation or listening session. We are honored to be here with the CDC, the Council on Environmental Quality, and the City of Atlanta. Michelle, it's so good to have you back in Georgia. I keep giving her a hard time for being in D.C. It's always refreshing to see a small-town Georgia friend make her way back home. Like I said, she's from LaGrange, which isn't too far from here, so I'm sure she may get a chance to go see your family.
Mama's Fried Chicken, hello.
See? Liz, wherever you are, it's great to be here with you today. Your passion for sustainability is admirable and perfectly suited for CDC given the agency's mission. The American people are definitely very fortunate to have you working for them. My name is Sham Reddy, and I am the Regional Administrator for GSA in the Southeast Sunbelt region. On behalf of GSA, and as a presidential appointee, it is a privilege to be partnering with the CDC and the CEQ on sustainability. As some of you may know, the President asked GSA to co-lead his sustainability initiatives, and in doing so, he appointed us to his Green Team, along with the Department of Energy and the Council on Environmental Quality. Why? Because we are the fleet, real estate, and procurement arm of the federal government. The numbers are staggering, so the influence is pretty significant. GSA has approximately 375 million square feet of real estate, 217,000 vehicles, and $90 billion in procurement. Armed with this overwhelming responsibility, we can leverage our real estate footprint, our fleet operations, and supply chain to anchor sustainable communities and create vibrant markets for green goods, vehicles, and services, as well as renewable and clean energy. In fact, our administrator has taken our agency's mission one step further by challenging GSA to achieve a zero environmental footprint by 2020. So we are walking the talk. For GSA, sustainability is becoming our way of life. And that's why I want to tell you how we're walking the talk. Then I want to discuss what we're doing to help our federal customers meet their obligations under the Sustainability Executive Order. And lastly, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we're driving sustainability into the market via our operations and supply chain, which is a legacy-creating move or series of moonshots, if you will. It very much relates back to what Michelle just said. GSA's commitment to sustainability starts with leadership. In order to ensure success and inculcate sustainability into the DNA of our workforce and our organization, we have adopted an integrated approach that combines visionary top-down leadership with mission-related sustainability elements incorporated into our business lines, our operations, and our organizational strategy. From the president to the administrator, to the senior sustainability officer, to the senior leadership team, to the sustainability steering committee, we have deep organizational ownership when it comes to sustainability, which is incredibly important if you want to have success in terms of sustainability. Through orders, leadership, and accountability, we are driving sustainability into our operations, product, service, and vehicle purchasing decisions, supply chain, and information technology. As a result, and in working towards our goal of zero environmental footprint, we are proactively minimizing our climate change risk related to construction and maintenance. In addition, we are reducing our carbon footprint by effectively leveraging our supply chain, reducing our energy consumption, and streamlining our operations to make them more energy efficient. In addition to making a pledge to achieve a zero environmental footprint by 2020, we are promoting and adopting sustainable workspaces that reduce our real estate footprint by encouraging joint use of space, hoteling, teaming areas, and mobile work. In fact, the newly renovated Martin Luther King Federal Building, which incidentally was the first federal building named after Dr. King, in Atlanta incorporates these design features. We've enacted green purchasing requirements at the agency. Our employees are making personal sustainability challenges, giving up their personal printers, and incorporating public health and wellness into their daily routines. It's becoming part of our DNA. We're embracing mobile work and have implemented technology that recreates the physical workspace in the virtual world so that we are truly living the mantra, work is what you do, not where you are. As we continue to make telework part of our everyday operations, we'll not only be able to enhance the customer experience, we'll be able to rapidly reduce our real estate footprint and energy consumption while increasing productivity and improving our employees' quality of life. For example, during the winter storm, our employees, all of whom have laptops, continued working without skipping a beat. Employees utilized digital soft phones, virtual access to all files, virtual meeting rooms, laptop-enabled VTCs or video conferencing, instant messengers, and other tools to continue their work. We were able to close real estate transactions, including a $20 million site acquisition and award contracts remotely, which enabled us to fulfill our important responsibilities for and on behalf of our customers. We're also using technology to facilitate virtual meetings so that we can reduce our travel. And we're incorporating public health and wellness as well as sustainability into all offsites and conferences. For example, at an upcoming offsite, the team is carpooling with government vehicles, building public health and wellness into the agenda, staying at a green hotel, and making a pledge to conserve water and reduce waste. By walking the talk, we're able to provide our customers with green buildings, tools to assist them in meeting their sustainability obligations, as well as green goods and services. On the real estate side, for instance, all new construction and major renovation projects must be Gold LEED certified, at least. And there are a few projects where we are able to obtain Platinum LEED certification. We have 5 LEED buildings, 18 LEED registered buildings, roofs with photovoltaic cells, 272,000 square feet, and more than 6 acres of vegetative roofs in the south. And that's just a taste of what we're doing to green our buildings. On the procurement side of the house, we're helping our federal partners with their green procurement so they can comply with their sustainability obligations under the Sustainability Executive Order. For example, we've created green schedules so our customers can purchase Energy Star products, such as washers, HVAC systems, dishwashers, and other appliances. We also launched GSA Advantage Environmental Aisle to provide tools that federal agencies can use to help them achieve their sustainability goals and meet their obligations under the Sustainability Executive Order. And we're using strategic sourcing, which many think is a private sector concept in government as a vehicle to streamline the acquisition process for high-quality, sustainable procurement. For instance, we created a bulk purchase agreement for comprehensive professional energy services. This BPA is a powerful procurement tool that agencies can use to meet their greenhouse gas, water conservation, and energy efficiency goals. At the same time, it's a great opportunity for next-generation vendors who have sustainability already embedded in their DNA to work with the government to help us transition our country to a clean energy economy. Agencies will be able to use this BPA to streamline and accelerate their procurement for professional energy services, which can help them meet their obligations under the Sustainability Executive Order. We're even helping our agency partners green out their fleet. In the Southeast alone, more than 20,000 of our 40,000 vehicles are alternative fuel vehicles. For instance, at Fort Bragg, our procurement officers have been working with the folks there to purchase 4 electric diesel buses, with hopefully a few more on the way. On top of that, one of our employees is actually sitting on the Sustainability Council for the base. Now that's customer intimacy, which is something that's very important to our administrator, this administration, and myself. As you can see, we are leaning forward to provide our customers with the products, the services, and the tools they need to support the President's vision regarding sustainability. But you know what? That's just part of our mission, and that's just the baseline. What's even better is that our mission gives us great potential to create markets, to drive change, to accelerate a movement for sustainability, all of which we're doing. Although we're proud of our commitment to LEED certification, that's just one component of our green real estate efforts. We are using our buildings to anchor sustainable communities and campuses, bike paths, green space, more trees, walking trails, public transit, and live, eat, work, and play communities. This requires collaboration with our local community partners like the City of Atlanta. What does this mean? It's very straightforward, and I've said this all across the Southeast. The days of build it and they will come are long gone, at least while I'm here. The federal government and local communities must collaborate to plan sustainable business and entertainment districts with 24-hour ecosystems. Federal buildings from here on out must anchor sustainable communities. We're also using our buildings to try out innovative green technology. We call it our Green Proving Ground. For instance, we recently installed 4 different types of solar cells on a building in Indianapolis to identify the best-in-class solar technology. We're also evaluating, among other things, RFID and smart carpet, and software that will reduce our technology-related energy consumption. Imagine a software product that will cut your energy consumption from VoIP phones, computers, printers, and other technology by 50% without having to install any hardware or invest in capital assets. All you need is an IP address. It is a highly cost-effective solution with a high rate of return in a short period of time. GSA is serving as one prong of the government's green venture capital arm, but doing so in a way that's specifically tailored to our mission, which is something that makes all of us at GSA very proud, and this former private sector guy feel privileged to be a part of our Civil Corps. Although we're allocating 10% of our energy consumption to renewable and clean energy, which exceeds the legal requirement by 3%, we are especially excited about the possibility of one day creating resilient markets for renewable and clean energy by entering into long-term power purchase agreements. Why? Because then the American people will be able to purchase renewable and clean energy at a reasonable cost no matter where they live. Imagine leveraging 180 million square feet of owned real estate, or better yet, 375 million square feet of owned and leased real estate to insist upon renewable and clean energy from the utility industry across America. Now that's a legacy move. That's the kind of move where when you're sitting on your front porch at the ripe old age of 80 or 90, and you can look back and say, I helped create those markets that are helping transition our country to a clean energy economy and lessen our dependence on foreign oil. We can have the same impact on markets for green goods and services as we can have on real estate and real estate-related energy consumption. How? By leveraging a $90 billion supply chain. We can essentially do what Walmart and Home Depot have done to drive sustainability into the marketplace, to change behavior, to influence product design, and to reduce carbon emissions. As Nancy will discuss later, we can harness the intrinsic power in our supply chain, roughly 15 to 20% of the federal government spend, to encourage vendors to reduce their carbon emissions and use sustainable packaging. Through our strategic sourcing initiatives and BBAs, we're not just providing green goods and services from high-quality vendors with scalable operations to our federal customers, we're creating markets. See, that's where the real play is. We're creating markets, real sustainable markets for these important goods and services. These are game changers that GSA is involved in. These benefit not only federal customers, but also the American people. Just think, what if we asked telecommunications companies to tell us about their e-waste reduction recycling efforts? More than 150 million mobile phones are discarded each year. With heavy and other dangerous metals embedded in them, they pose a significant health risk to people, especially in developing countries, not to mention their adverse impact on landfills. So what if we gave telecommunication companies extra points for being good corporate citizens on the e-waste front when evaluating them for contractual awards? Wouldn't this incent them to work with their manufacturing partners to address the problem? Maybe. It's definitely something that we should explore. As you can see, GSA is on the forefront of sustainability, and I am very, very proud and honored to be part of this movement and part of this effort. I want to thank you for joining our discussion on sustainability, for being here to listen. Your being here reflects your commitment to the cause as well as your appreciation of the business case for sustainability. The movement has just begun, and rest assured, you're part of it. Change only happens when movements are afoot, as we are seeing all across North Africa and the Middle East. And rest assured, and there's no doubt in my mind that we've embarked on a transformational mission that will strengthen our economy while leaving a better world for future generations. With your help, we can eliminate our impact on the environment, lessen our dependence on foreign oil, and transition our country to a clean energy economy, all while preserving our national energy and climate security. What an awesome mission. With that, I'd like to say thank you and introduce our next speaker, Mr. Bill Hoskin, the Budget and Policy Manager for the Division of Sustainability at the City of Atlanta. As a sustainability point person for the mayor, Bill is helping Mayor Kasim Reed accomplish his vision of Atlanta becoming a top 10 sustainable city. In fact, Mayor Reed recently visited Prince Charles to learn about his sustainability efforts. Incidentally, Mayor Reed was visiting with the Prince when his son William proposed to Kate Middleton. I digress, but I thought it was a pretty interesting story that he was there. I know he will never forget that trip as a result. But let's please welcome Bill Hoskin. I'm looking forward to collaborating with the city. We have already set up a very strong working relationship with them, with liaisons between our two respective offices, and we are working with them on the MMPT project, sitting on the advisory board for the Georgia Department of Transportation, and hopefully we will be working with the city on its Sustainability Steering Committee. Without further ado, please welcome Mr. Bill Hoskin.
Thank you, Sham, for the kind introduction. And I did have some slides here to share, so I'll just pull these up. Looks like the right thing. So I guess first of all, my name is Bill Hoskin. I'm the interim director of sustainability now at the City of Atlanta. Our director of sustainability, Mandy Mahoney, just recently left us and took up a job with the Southeast Energy Efficiency Alliance. So for the moment, I've stepped into that role. Really glad to be here today and be able to talk to you all about what we have going on at the City of Atlanta in terms of sustainability. So I'll start off with the mayor's charge just to give us some context here. In October of last year, the mayor announced that he wanted the City of Atlanta to become a top 10 nationally ranked city in terms of sustainability in the United States. That's a big deal. This is a big thing. Us going from where we were previously at, 38 a couple years ago to 19th and now to wanting to become a top 10, it's a big undertaking. But with a lot of work that we've been taking part in the last few years, we believe that we can make it. And with the help of our business partners, local governments, state government, and federal government, we believe that we will achieve this goal. So why do we want to do it? Well, we do want to achieve this and become a top 10 city. We want to be motivating and supporting community efforts that improve the quality of life in the city. We want to create and encourage a community dedicated to environmental sustainability through innovative leadership. We want to commit to continual improvement in sustainability practice, and we want to lead by example through the development and implementation of policies and activities that support environmental sustainability. So I just want to show you quickly here on this slide. Here's where we are today. So we're now at 19th is where we were in 2008. That was up from 38th in 2006. And now we're looking to be top 10 by 2012. A long way to go, but as I said, we believe we have the means and resources and support to get there. How do we end up at 19th? Well, here's sort of an overview. Hopefully you can see it. There are a few things that we're actually doing really well on. Green building in the city is actually something where we're ranked third nationally, and that's largely to the efforts here at the CDC, Emory, Georgia Tech, and other major efforts where entities have embraced green building practices. And then we have some issues where you can see metro street congestion. Those of you who live in Atlanta probably have experienced this more than once. And many of these there's things that we can do something about. Some of them we can't directly, but indirectly or directly we'll be doing everything that we can to raise our profile and lead the charge on improving our standing in all of these facets of sustainability. So translating this from top 10, what is that going to mean for us? What are the goals? Well, I've just laid out a few of them here. The first is climate change. So we want to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 25% in 2020, 40% by 2030, and 80% by 2050. Major progress needs to be made. But I'm pleased to say that the city has exceeded its primary goal of reducing emissions by 7% by 2012. We've currently reduced our emissions by over 9% and are on a path to continue making progress on that front moving forward. Energy. Reducing the total energy use in existing municipal operations by 15% by 2020, 40% by 2030, and 80% by 2050, with a renewable energy target of 5% of total municipal use by 2015. This one will be a big challenge. In speaking with the Vice President of Sustainability of the Americas with Siemens, they said they were going to struggle with achieving their goals on energy reduction. But we're taking a lot of steps today that I'll talk to you a bit more about briefly that will help us get there. But it'll be a start, and there's going to be a lot of work that's going to need to take place for us to really make it here on energy. And then finally, fleet fuels. So to reduce our petroleum fuel consumption by 10% by 2015 by our highest or greatest level of fuel usage departments, and that the entire fleet is composed of 15% alternatively fueled vehicles by 2012. Now here's just a breakdown of our carbon emissions across the city. This was in 2008. 80% of our emissions come from electricity. So anything that we can do to reduce our electricity consumption goes a long way to meeting those climate change goals. And thankfully, over the past couple of years, we have seen changes at the utility as well, where they've shifted some production from coal to natural gas, which has helped us on this front. But we are undertaking a series of projects that will not only bring some renewable energy sources online, but will also reduce our total electricity consumption. So here's a rundown of some of those initiatives. First of all is the RM Clayton Wastewater Treatment Plant Combined Heat and Power Project. So here we're looking to install up to a 2 megawatt biogas CHP generator that will generate up to $1.5 million in annual cost savings, create 82 jobs during construction and 3 jobs on a perpetual basis. And this alone will cut our municipal emissions by 3% and take us over halfway towards meeting our renewable energy target by 2015. This is a huge project and one of the leading kinds of its type here in the Southeast. And the total value of that will be approximately up to $7 million. The next major initiative we have underway, and where an RFQ is outstanding, is for a citywide energy service contract. So here we're looking to conduct energy efficiency retrofits on all major city facilities, and this could be up to a $58 million contract, including the airport and wastewater treatment facilities. Next, it's not all about municipal operations, but also what can we do with residences and businesses. So we've introduced, as part of the Recovery Act, a residential rebate and financing program called the Sustainable Home Initiative in a New Economy, or SHINE. This is a program that is in partnership with Georgia Power, and we're also looking at bringing on the gas utility AGL, that will see to whole home retrofitting activities and rebates for high-efficiency water heaters, so up to $2,000 for qualified improvements done to a home, or up to $1,500 for high-efficiency water heaters. And we're hoping that this will be a great way to start engaging the community and get people involved and making efficiency improvements themselves. And then finally, of the selected list here, we've conducted studies on all of our closed landfills and are looking at opportunities to develop those as energy projects. One great opportunity that's arisen is looking at taking the landfill gas off one of our landfills, cleaning up the gas, using it as a dryer for sludge off of one of the wastewater treatment plants that will then reduce our hauling charges and tipping fees, where some of this is either incinerated, which will soon be illegal, or is being hauled off to a landfill. And ultimately, the waste will become a fertilizer that we can then sell. So we have some great innovative projects that we're looking at bringing about, and some great opportunities and ways and means that we're moving forward on sustainability. Now, finally, I'd just like to wrap up and talk a little bit about the vision we have going forward on transportation. Atlanta is already home to the world's busiest airport. We have, over in Savannah, we have the 4th largest port in the U.S. and the fastest growing. And with the expansion of the Panama Canal, we'll soon see supertanker container ships making their way onto Atlantic ports. And finally is land. And what can we do to become, once again, a hub of transportation innovation here in the Southeast? Well, we view the electric vehicles as being a great opportunity here for us to see a resurgence in this, in the transportation sector. Just looking at a national map here, Georgia and Atlanta in particular were positioned to strike on this front. Of the 50 states, we're one of the top 3 in terms of the current incentives that are available. There's a state tax credit, HOV lane access, and then at the city level, we've made significant strides in even the past 6 months in preparing for the arrival of electric vehicles. We've passed an expedited residential permitting process. We have a commercial permitting process underway. We've conducted a national best practice around permitting for electric vehicles, and we've put together a metro region task force, including state government, other local governments, Clean Cities Atlanta, the Georgia Power Company, other electric utilities to move forward in disseminating these best practices across the region. So further to that, I sort of started hitting on some of these. We've appointed an electric vehicle deployment specialist, and our senior policy advisor is now championing this task force. And we're also advancing our standings among the Rocky Mountain Institute and the Urban Sustainability Directors Network nationally on this front. So here in the state, just quickly looking at the economics here, for a Nissan Leaf or a WeGo Life, you're looking at about a $33,000 MSRP on these vehicles, and then after federal and state incentives, down to around $20,000, which is quite competitive for this type of vehicle when you're looking at operating costs that are about 1/3 to 1/4 that of a comparable vehicle. Now, we've been in talks with Better Place, General Electric, and we're looking at structuring other partnerships around mass deployment. And we're really starting to see this concept of battery swapping as being a great opportunity here. So we've started pulling together the partners to really tackle this, address it, and we're bringing legislators on board to support this. So what does this do? Well, one of the major issues with electric cars, well, it's twofold. One, you have a limited range on them of about 100 miles per charge, and two is that the most expensive component in it is the battery, which is about a $10,000 piece of capital equipment. If we can separate the battery from the unit, the cost of these vehicles goes from $20,000 down to around $10,000 for a brand new car. And the ongoing operating expenses then become close to that you'd be paying for a comparable gasoline vehicle. Now this is starting to look pretty attractive, at least that's what we think, and that this is something where if we really want to see mass adoption, this is the way we're going to have to move. So on that front, we have started pulling together the partners, and we will be looking to work more with the Department of Energy through Clean Cities, other federal departments and major fleets in the Atlanta area, as well as throughout the Southeast to really pull this, begin pulling this together and moving forward on this front. So that concludes my remarks, and I guess I will turn things back over to Sham.
Thank you. It's great to see Atlanta leading the way on sustainability, especially relative to its peers across the country. I definitely think there is a strong vision there that I'm excited to see realized over the coming years. Next, I'd like to introduce our next speakers, Michelle Moore and Nancy Gillis. As you know, Michelle is driving sustainability into the DNA of government. I said that earlier, and you heard from her this morning. By holding agencies accountable with respect to Section 13 requirements, Michelle is helping the President accomplish his vision with respect to sustainability. Nancy, GSA Sustainability Extraordinaire, works directly with our agency's Senior Sustainability Officer to ensure that we are meeting our obligations under the agency's sustainability plan, the executive order, and in particular our Section 13 green purchasing requirements. She's putting her creative energy to work so the agency can move markets as I described earlier during my remarks. Nancy, why don't you come on up and join us so we can get into the listening session.
Good afternoon. Thank you again for oh yeah, you can always tell it goes a little bit, good afternoon. Thank you so much for having all of us here. You've already heard from Michelle and from Cham and from Bill, and it's such an honor to be up here with them. And of course, it's a great honor to have all of you here when we're competing with such a beautiful day outside and with all that color green, all of those beers that are calling to us right about now. So I appreciate that you have stayed here and that you've come to actually listen to what GSA will share with you on the GreenGov Supply Chain Partnership and our small business pilot program that's part of that partnership. But as I was introduced, my name is Nancy Gillis. I do work for the General Services Administration, and I serve as our director of GSA's Federal Supply Chain Emissions Program Management Office. That's another one of those big, long phrases that you try to think, what does that really mean? Well, the PMO is focused on reducing greenhouse gas emissions of the federal supply chain. And why? Well, because in doing so, we reduce the emissions of those contractors and vendors who provide very necessary products and services to ourselves. What we do is we save taxpayer dollars, we mitigate our own supply chain risks, and we increase agency operational efficiencies. So obviously this is something that we think is really important. Hence, we have set up this program management office and did so just last month. So let me tell you a little bit about what we're doing. So I'm going to go a little bit into green products. You've heard a lot from Michelle earlier this morning, but I know that we are joined here this afternoon by a lot of our very valued industry partners. If I can have kind of a show of hands of who here is coming from the industry side. Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming out. I, of course, reside in Washington, D.C., and I think we can do a coin toss as to how bad the traffic is, yours versus ours. So I was cautioned that to get this great of an audience from our industry partners this late in the day with what you're facing outside is a true success. So thank you very much for being here for that. I'm going to talk a little bit about green products and the opportunity that provides to businesses right now, i.e. the requirements that agencies have to do green purchasing. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about our supply chain partnership and in particular our federal small business GHG emissions pilot. And for that portion of the conversation before we then get into really hearing from you, I'm going to ask Mandy Mahoney to come up and just give a few moments of comments. So, green products. I don't want to reiterate something that you've already heard several times today, but I do want to point out that this really provides a business opportunity. As it stands now, federal agencies are required to procure by statutes, executive orders, and by the FAR, the Federal Acquisition Regulation, green products that constitute Energy Star, bio-based products, and recycled content products. And in fact, the Executive Order 13514 requires that 95% of all new contracts include products containing specific environmental and energy attributes. So you really have a focus by agency now of wanting to procure green products and services. And what we now hope, of course, and this is what GSA is committed in doing, is working with our industry partners to make sure that those innovative products and services that you have, that you are highlighting them appropriately within your responses to procurements, that we're making sure that we're capturing that information online, and that we're working with you for you to understand what these requirements are. So if you do have those very valued product and service offerings, our agency customers want them, and you're the ones that are going to give them to them. So we really, really want to work with you on this, and this really is a big opportunity. We're hearing a lot of the customer agencies coming to us saying, we need to now focus on these green products and services, and we need your help, GSA, in making sure that you identify them for us. So some of the greening the supply chain focus, and how does this fit into products and services, is for greening the supply chain, it leads GSA and our contractors and our agency partners to all work together. Now, as was said earlier, Executive Order 13514 called on GSA to answer feasibility questions, and those feasibility questions focused on whether or not our industry partners would be able to complete greenhouse gas emissions inventories and then share that information with our agency partners. And then, of course, for ourselves to use in procurement. And this is in addition to wanting to make a more sustainable federal supply chain by having those green products and services used by agencies. This is now really looking at greenhouse gas emissions and trying to assure that those who provide the products and services to the federal government are as sustainable as possible. That they themselves are doing so by completing a greenhouse gas emissions inventory, knowing where those emissions are coming from, and then taking the actions within their own organizations to recognize the energy savings, the risk mitigation opportunities, and of course anybody who has filled their gas tank the last 2 or 3 days and noticed that spike in price, that of course is having an impact on the supply chain of producers, and that is impacting how our supply chain, since we rely on those products and services and those producers, how our federal supply chain, how sustainable and effective it is. So we're really interested, and this is where I'll get into the GreenGov Supply Chain Partnership Program, in working with our industry partners, both large and small, to assure that you're looking at your own operations, completing greenhouse gas emissions inventories, and then as you recognize operational efficiencies, energy efficiencies, cost reductions associated with that, and you're mitigating your risk, that we also are benefiting from that. And when we talk about the federal supply chain, as was already mentioned, it's rather big, which is why we look at it. And there's a Carnegie Mellon study that actually says for any organization, up to 25 to 70% of that organization's greenhouse gases comes from your supply chain. And that means, of course, that those are the greenhouse gases of our industry partners. That's why we're very interested in working with you. So when we're talking about greening the supply chain, we're wanting to create a greener, more efficient supply chain, and that's going to help meet our goal of a clean energy economy. And so what we're wanting to do today is talk a little bit about more the partnership, what benefits it offers to you, what some of the criteria of joining are, and in particular our emphasis on small businesses, because 80% of our schedule holders are small businesses. And they're very important to GSA, have always been and always will remain very important to GSA. And they're also that innovative part of our economic engine. That's been said several times already this afternoon. And so that's why we're going to talk a little bit about a special pilot program that we've created within GSA to really help facilitate small businesses going through a greenhouse gas emissions inventory process. So first, when I say supply chain, who here just says, oh, I know what supply chains are. I read about them every day. You know, there's the paper, and then there's the tutorial on supply chain. The tutorial on supply chain wins hands down. Who here really knows supply chain before we go into a partnership that's focused on it? Great. We have one person, so for this next 2 minutes, you can kind of tune out, think about what you're going to do as far as celebrating our green wearing of today. And for the rest of you, I'll go through the quick overview of what the supply chain is and what we mean when we talk about greening it. From the supply chain, as you see, starting from the left here, it's basically this conceptualization of a thing that I need. And that thing then, going through the process, the thing needs materials, so it's extraction phase. That thing needs to be made, it's manufactured. During manufacture, it's transported. And where is it transported? It's transported to the places where we, as consumers, procure it. We then use it. We dispose of it. As was said earlier, the hope is that there's some clarity that what we're disposing of is reused and recycled. And GSA is working on assuring that that's done as much as possible in the best way possible. Because what we want is that then, that output, to go back into the beginning part of that cycle. And that's what we mean by the supply chain. And that's what we're wanting to work with our industry partners on. Because if you green your supply chain, then just by nature of doing that, the federal supply chain gets greener, more sustainable. So the partnership, basically, it's a collaborative effort. We're working in tandem with our partners on this. And members of the Green Gov Supply Chain Partnership, we're really asking for you to measure your greenhouse gas emissions and then set goals to reduce them. The opportunity to join is based on the fact that if you have already done a greenhouse gas emissions inventory, you're a member. We're interested, of course, in your level of verification, but really what we're trying to do here in this partnership is we're trying to figure out, and I'll ask this question, how many here even know what a greenhouse gas emissions inventory is? Well, sustainability officers don't count, I don't think. Show of hands again. How many do we have? This is great. So for those of you who have, we want you, of course, to join the partnership because, as you see, there are just as many here who aren't aware what an inventory is or how to complete one. And if the benefits of having an inventory is understanding where you yourself within your organization can recognize where you have energy efficiencies possible, cost reductions, where you can mitigate some of those risks that you experience from that, then wouldn't everybody want to do that? So the partnership is to bring in those who already have completed inventories and partner them with those who have not. And so if you have to join, basically we'll have an email address here at the end of the presentation. Just let me know you want to join and that you have completed an inventory and what level of verification, and you're in. If you're not, but you understand this movement towards sustainability, you understand that the agencies operating under the executive order are focused on working with suppliers that are sustainable because they themselves want to make sure that they're sustainable agencies. And therefore you want to engage with them and be part of that, and therefore want to be part of this partnership and complete an inventory and show and reflect to them of your interest in this, of wanting to be sustainable. Then what we have for you is the GHG emissions inventory promise. That's basically that those industry partners who are interested in doing this would come on in, sign that promise, and we work with you over a 12-month period to get an inventory completed. And then, of course, just having something that tells you what your GHG emissions are isn't very fruitful if you don't use that information to actually do something. So part of the criteria then would be that you set goals in the same way that the executive order has helped agencies set goals, and then you make movement towards meeting them. So what are the benefits? Well, I've already talked about you've got cost and energy savings, operational efficiencies, of course, opportunities for waste reduction. And you could think that for GSA, waste reduction is very important. Why? Because we have an administrator who has set a zero environmental footprint goal for us. In essence, zero environmental waste. She wants to take waste out of that system. Okay? And so what we're going to do is we provide, as part of this partnership, an opportunity for those who have already completed inventories to talk with other members within their industry about what are likely goals, how those goals have helped them set additional goals, the cost savings associated with that. And of course, it's something that we, as part of the partnership, make public and open, your commitment to being sustainable, to the rest of the federal government. We're going to have online resources. There are tools that are available. I'll go in a moment to our pilot program for small businesses. We're going to have webinars. Basically, this is engagement in which we help, and we offer a collaboration opportunity for those who have already completed this to learn from others, and for those who haven't to learn from those who have. So how about the small businesses in the audience? How many here are small businesses? Oh, that's really wonderful. So what we're already recognizing is that for small businesses, there may be distinct challenges that you face in completing a greenhouse gas emissions inventory. We're aware of that. And so we started a pilot program in which we already have 60 members. We have up to 100 positions available within that pilot program. And we have been going to these different listening sessions, and after each of the listening sessions, we have several who come up and say, this sounds really great. And basically what it is, it's a 3-year commitment to come in, and we do one-on-one assistance with you to complete a greenhouse gas emissions inventory. And we do so because we want to learn from you. We, GSA, want to learn from you what are your distinct challenges, so that as a procurement agency, we can move forward over the years, because of course this is a long-term commitment, to identifying mechanisms, tools, processes in which we can help you overcome those type of challenges. And we think that getting on the path towards sustainability, in making your own operations more energy efficient, and then signaling that not only to those agencies who are looking for small businesses, that you're also a small green business, is something that's very valuable. Valuable to yourselves and valuable to our agency customers. So basically, your participation in either the partnership itself, because you've already done an inventory, or in the pilot program highlights you as a leader in sustainability, and it really fosters partnership opportunities with especially those larger firms who are looking to put together solution sets for agency customers that are inclusive of all green businesses, small also. So basically what I wanted to do now is bring up Mandy. Okay. And she will speak a little bit about the specific challenges faced by small businesses and what some of the sustainability components of GSA offer as far as business opportunities. Thank you.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. I am Mandy Mahoney. I serve as of Monday as the Director of Management and Strategy for Southeast Energy Efficiency Alliance. That is not the same thing as South Face. That South Face is a wonderful nonprofit in town as well that we work very closely with at SEIA. SEIA works on energy policy as well as helping small green businesses, especially energy businesses, really get into the market. I was thrilled to hear that I got to talk a little bit about thinking about how to, as small businesses, to go into this. I'm the daughter of small business people, and my husband's actually an entrepreneur. And I want to share with you a story about my husband, the entrepreneur. Sean Paul Mahoney. That name might tip you off that today is a very special day for him. So I want to use Sean as my analogy today. So about 6 years ago, Sean went to Ireland on this great, exciting trip he had been planning, and he bought a green Irish rugby shirt. He has been collecting things for St. Patrick's Day for years. Every day, this is a big holiday in Sean's world. So about 3 weeks ago, he started growing a beard that he then shaved into a very festive look today. kind of like these big mutton chops, and he's got red hair, so it fits for today. He had his whole outfit laid out last night before we went to bed. He had scheduled his business so that today his business partner was there. They could spend half their day celebrating St. Patrick's Day at Limerick Junction. So Sean has been at Limerick since about noon, and they've invited some business partners they work with to celebrate today, structured it so no conference calls or anything. So he got up this morning, and I got up to dress, get ready for work. And as you can tell, I'm not in green. That disappointed Sean. So I found a ring that I could wear. And then I was downstairs making coffee, and Sean comes to me with these 3 god-awful hats that he wanted me to choose one to wear. And he was as excited about those hats as when my Labrador Retriever brings back her tennis ball for me to throw for her. And I was like, thank you, but, and he gave me a pin that I could wear that promptly fell off about an hour later. But, he was so excited. And I've talked to him a couple times today, and he's having a fabulous day. He was totally ready to just immerse himself into St. Patrick's Day. How in the heck does that relate to what we're talking about today? Well, today is Sean's day, special day, just like if and when you would be ready to enroll in the supply chain partnership with GSA. Just like Sean 5 years ago bought the rugby shirt he's wearing today, 3 weeks ago he started growing that beard, and lots of other things in the interim. What are you going to do so that when the time comes, you're ready to be a full partner with GSA? What Nancy shared with me, and I could tell it was very authentic, was that they don't want to just work with people that are in the partnership. They really want you to be doing some things now, and they are hungry to work with people that are moving down the journey of sustainability, and that's all this stuff is. I also believe it's critical that you do things that are fun. So just like Sean was really excited when he bought his jersey and all these other things he's been doing, what are fun things that you can do? A lot of times we talk about reducing things. It's like putting ourselves on a diet. Well, you and I both know that diets come and go. But if you're doing something that you really enjoy, you're excited to talk about it, you're excited to include more people in it, and once you begin to do that, you set a strong foundation and you add other things to it. One of the reasons the city of Atlanta has one of the leading alternative fuel vehicle programs in the nation is because Bill Hoskin loves that subject and took it on himself 2 years ago and has just been looking at creative ways to build it to really be a national leading program. What is that for you? Even if you might start with something that might seem trivial, it's not. Or if you have an employee that wants to do something that might not really seem like it really hits your bottom line, I encourage you, just as you are small business people, you have to be entrepreneurial. Use that same approach here. And I truly believe you'll find that it not only does improve your bottom line, but it also improves the quality of life for you and your employees. And at the end of the day, if you can have happy, motivated employees, that is going to also go back to helping your bottom line. So may you all have a good St. Patrick's Day, and good luck with your journey.
I had just suggested that we offer a free beer to anybody who goes and joins the partnership today, but apparently that wasn't motivational enough. So what we wanted to do now is, obviously this is a listening session. You have heard a lot of conversation from GSA regional leadership, and you have definitely heard from our national leadership in the sense of Michelle Moore, who's always so focused and so committed to sustainability. And You've heard about how we at GSA are really trying to engage with both our small business partners and obviously all of the other very valued industry partners that we have through the Supply Chain Partnership Program. So if anything that we have stated today has raised any questions or any comments or any suggestions that you have for us, this is the time that we'd like to hear them. And so I welcome anybody to come up to the microphones and just engage with us.
I think this is always the moment where we're waiting for folks to queue up, where they can't wait to tell us what we need to be doing better or differently. And so we hope to hear a lot of comments during this session, a lot of ideas about the partnership specifically or other adjacent space.
Hello,
Hi.
I'm Tony Cox from GSA. And I was just curious, the 3-year commitment during the supply chain partnership, what's involved in that if more than just having the businesses engage in those things that promote and facilitate the reduction of waste and promote conservation and those type of things that are sustainable types of behaviors?
So the small business pilot that we're doing, what it entails the 3 years is because the first 12 months really is active working with the Climate Leaders Program. And of course, some of you may be aware that was an EPA program that is no longer funded, but they have agreed to continue to support this pilot initiative through the 3-year process. So it's basically utilizing the Climate Leaders Program, and you obtain in the first 12 months a completed greenhouse gas emissions inventory. And that basically is having almost a 24-hour call center staff available as you as a small business owner are holding electricity bills saying, okay, I'm seeing this here, how does this translate into an inventory? Then it's in the same way that the agencies have been asked, if you have data, there's no value to that data unless you use it to impact your own operations. So there is the setting of the goals, what are relevant goals for your type of business, and then the last year of this endeavor is not only to gauge how well you've met those goals, but actually to have your inventory verified. So GSA, being a procurement agency, just as we as individual consumers, we like to know that the claims that are made for the products that we procure are valid. And so verification of greenhouse gas emissions inventories is an important component. So at the close of this endeavor, what you will have is an inventory, you'll have goals, you'll have progressed towards those goals and already recognized savings and just the benefits inherent in doing this for your organization, for your business. But you'll also have a verified inventory, one of the few progressive companies who have that then, because there aren't many verified, especially externally verified GHG emissions inventories out there. So you'll be definitely a market leader as it pertains to small businesses.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
If I could just add a thought to that too, because I know that Nancy's been doing an extraordinary job of taking us through what the technical provisions of this program are. But I just want to remind us all again of some of the thoughts that Sham shared early on, and that's really why we're doing this and what our interest is and what the President has charged us with. And one of the ways that we're going to win the future, that we're going to out-innovate, out-build, out-educate our global competition is by supporting American innovation, supporting our small businesses, supporting American entrepreneurship. And all those stats that Nancy shared, that Sham so eloquently emphasized about the federal role as a member of local marketplaces, as an owner of buildings, as a purchaser of stuff and services, we really have a responsibility to leverage that to help support clean energy entrepreneurship, efficiency businesses, a lot of the great folks that I got to meet during the break who are working with the federal agencies. Now, how can we do that? What are some ways that we can apply metrics in our supply chain, to know if we're really accomplishing our goal? Because, if you're not keeping score, you're not playing the game. Well, looking at greenhouse gas emissions in our supply chain is a first step in that direction. We asked GSA to lead an effort to look at this, to focus on GHGs as a metric, and in doing that and looking at the feasibility, how we might move forward with federal procurement in that arena, this this first step is developing a voluntary incentive-based pilot program so that we can understand not only what the benefits and what the downside is too for big businesses, but so that we can work with small business as well, to make sure that if we're creating a voluntary incentive-based program around, completing inventories and reporting into us, that there's good stuff in it for you too, because we know the scale's very different. And so by engaging with GSA in this pilot effort for small businesses, or, if you're big businesses, by signing on, we're going to be able to learn from you. So it's not just about the inventory. It's not just about, us being able to further articulate what our footprint is. It's about us learning how to put the right incentives in place to make sure that federal procurement is a strategic tool in helping to drive innovation and ultimately to help drive American competitiveness, because small business is not only incredibly important employer, it's an engine for American innovation and for economic development. So all those, everybody in the room is important to us, but all those folks from the small business community who raised their hands are too. And as Sham shared, I'm from LaGrange, Georgia. Some of my former colleagues and neighbors are right over here from the Interface team. And, I got to learn through entrepreneurship at Interface and through subsequent businesses, how going green can green your bottom line. And so this is a way that we're looking at how we can do that as a federal enterprise.
Thank you.
And just to add, the key is, and Michelle said it, we are putting in place more of a carrot approach. We are the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Instead of penalizing companies for not being environmentally friendly or for not watching their greenhouse gas emissions, we're flipping it on its head and saying, if you're going to over the next few years, we want to learn from you as to how we can help incent you to reduce your greenhouse gas emissions, and over time explore the possibility of providing companies with points in the awards process that will give them a competitive advantage over those businesses that don't do those sorts of things. But it's meant to, again, incentivize a voluntary approach to being better corporate citizens from an environmental or sustainable standpoint. And one of the things we're doing at GSA, just like Michelle is doing across the country, we're listening to businesses. We are hosting roundtables and discussions with businesses to hear directly from them, because we recognize that we don't have all the answers, nor do we have all the information. We want to hear directly from you so that when we're drafting policy, that we don't impose policies that don't make sense for you or that are counterproductive or destructive for all intents and purposes. So that's what this meeting is about, and that's what this administration is about, is collaborating with the business community so that together we can hopefully help transition our country to a clean energy economy. Because ultimately we can't do it without you. We are 100% dependent on you, dependent on small business and the American people in order to make that happen.
Good afternoon. My name is Ban Simon. I'm president of Atlantic Energy and Engineering. In addition to representing my small business, I also chair the Sustainability Institute at the American Society of Civil Engineers in Georgia. I would like to mention that in addition to achieving the LEED certification or LEED level for buildings, at ASCE we are also looking into certifying the infrastructure. There is a new organization that was just born as a result of our efforts. It's called Institute for Sustainable Infrastructure. We're looking into a rating system for bridges, dams, highways, anything beyond building certification. The goal is to improve the bottom line of sustainability, and that is environmental, economic, and social well-being. I just wanted to mention that because this is an important aspect we're going to start be looking into, given that our infrastructure are aging, and we're looking into either rehabilitating or even building new ones, and all of these measures will be taken into consideration for the life cycle of buildings as well as structures. Thank you.
That's great.
Thanks for mentioning that. We actually had some of your colleagues from your community from Wisconsin down not too long ago talking to us about how great green infrastructure had been to their municipal budget. So appreciate you sharing those thoughts.
And that goes right to what I was saying earlier about using our buildings to anchor sustainable communities and sustainable neighborhoods and sustainable campuses. It's more than just the building.
Hi, I'm Dan Backhouse from Podponics. Michelle, low comment. You've been getting progressively more southern the longer today. So welcome home. Real quick, I'm a little intrigued by the greenhouse gas emissions inventory verification process, and I just have a couple of questions about that. Who's set up to do the verification of the process? How complex, or rather how sophisticated is it? Does it take, for instance, into account different industries and processes and things like that? What is the cost of the verification under your pilot program and in general beyond that? And what are the benefits? Is it, you had mentioned a point system under the procurement laws. Is it similar to a 8A or small business certification? If you could just expand a little bit more on that, I think that would be quite interesting to me. Thanks.
So certification is an important issue, and it's one in which right now, as you'll see for the membership, we will take any level of certification, first, second, or third-party certification. And that's because it's just now that we're getting those providers who are coming in and saying we will third-party verify your GHG emissions inventories. And something that was referenced earlier on, that Section 13 of the executive order, that's really where GSA was not only tasked with these feasibility questions of getting, whether or not our suppliers can complete these inventories, and then the use of that information within the procurement process, where GSA partnered with EPA and DOD to say, yes, we should work in an incentivized way to have industry complete these. We also highlighted some of the existing areas that we still need to look and delve into. So part of the partnership is to find out, for those who join, what level of verification are you at? Why have you chosen that level of verification? What are some of the challenges you've seen? Is there a dearth of providers? We, of course, as a procurement agency, have a lot of provider of products and services come and highlight what they do to us. Have they done that successfully to where you have found them? So that's part of the process of this learning, and that's why this really is a collaborative endeavor in which we're wanting to partner with both large and small businesses to figure out how you've done this. To the question of, and this always people perk up regardless of the time of day, how does that impact me in procurement? What am I going to get in procurement? And of course there's an initiative within GSA right now in which we're looking at and have stated publicly, how do you use GHG emissions information in the procurement process? And we're testing that internally right now in 4 what we quantify as significant procurements. And by that we mean very complex procurements in which there would allow us a lot of venue to figure out how do you actually use this data to assure that at the outcome of that procurement, when a product or service is actually obtained by one of our customer agencies, that they're really getting a sustainable solution that's inclusive of greenhouse gas emission sensitivity. So that's where that's being used in procurement. In some sense, it may be through technical evaluation, by points. That's still under discussion. And we'd actually like to hear that from you too. As Michelle mentioned, and Shannon mentioned, we're having roundtables because there are industry players. I don't know if you've heard of this one. It's called, starts with a W, Walmart. They're the ones who are doing this too. You'd have to really be under a rock if you're not aware of the fact that they have gone down to their suppliers and they're leveraging procurement as a means to get the most sustainable suppliers for them. And if it's for Walmart, it's something that the federal government would also like to benefit. We're the stewards of the American taxpayer dollar. We need to be as sustainable, as cost-effective as we possibly can be. So that's what we're looking at. I hope that answers part of your question. Great. I heard that we have one question online. We keep talking about telework, and then I don't know if the same here, I sometimes forget that there are people who are not visibly apparent. So for those who are just as valuable but not visibly apparent.
I think you might have already addressed part of this, but GSA has formally responded to the EO 13514 Section 13 requirement, and the question is in reference to how will this reporting be used in the contract proposal review process?
Told you, everybody always perks up when you start talking about how this information is going to be used in procurements. So yeah, I did think that I answered that. Was there any other Michelle, at times when you hear about procurement and green purchasing?
No, I think that to that point, what Nancy shared about the test that GSA is basically doing on for procurements to see how an incentive structure might work. Is again, this is something that, just like the conversation with you all today, too, in terms of listening how we want to move forward on this, the very deliberative process that we're taking and having pilots to look at how to develop the right incentive structure for a voluntary program around this effort, very much in the same spirit. So this is not a program that's set in stone, implemented, and cutting across all the procurements at this point. And this is something that we're looking for you guys to engage with us in a pilot fashion to be able to figure out how we might apply something across the board and design a program that's going to work towards that big picture goal, right? Which is helping to support American innovation, entrepreneurship, and competitiveness.
Hi, I'm Tina Baker. I'm the president of Cadence Group. And I just have an easy question. And that is, are you looking for a particular type of small business partner in the program? For instance, are you looking for a company that produces products that are energy efficient products? Are you only looking for, or are you interested in companies that are service-based companies who may have less of a footprint in the first place? Thank you.
That's a real good question. We are looking for both, and part of what we want from those service providers is, of course, you see that the federal government is moving towards service procurement, right? So a lot of agencies are wanting to get services, and by that they term it solutions in the sense of that these are solutions inclusive of a service component and a product component. So we'd really be interested in small businesses because you hear a lot of conversation about products, the tangibility of that, talk about the packaging and such. Well, what about the GHG emissions of a service provider? Exactly how are we gauging that? And I can't quite cite the actual page number of the Section 13 report that GSA provided in partnership with EPA and DoD, but we talked about the fact that we need to explore more how do you start looking at GHG emissions as it pertains to service providers. So definitely interested in that. Do we have any other questions? One of the quick things that I wanted to use as an opportunity is to talk a little bit more. I know we talk about this partnership, we talk about collaboration, we have this question about verification. What I don't want to leave you with is this assumption that GSA or our sister agencies aren't already grappling with some of these issues themselves. So what CEQ had done when GSA fulfilled our primary obligation under Section 13 of the EO, we handed in our report as was requested. We then received a nice notice back that said, wow, that was a report that had a lot of suggestions in them. Why don't you go forth and figure out how to make those suggestions be implemented? And so we continue to work in the area of how to use GHG emissions within procurement. And to that end, we have sub-working groups that are interagency groups trying to address this. And we have ones that are looking at, and there were gentlemen who talked to me later earlier in the day and wanted to talk later on data systems. So if you want to talk about opportunities right now in the sustainability sphere, if you deal with the data, there's a lot of data that needs to be captured, there's a lot of data that needs to be made sense of, and there's a lot of data that needs to be communicated from our industry side to the government side and then back. So we're dealing with that. There's obviously also this understanding of definitions and how do you count. So if you're in the business of figuring out, and then how do you verify what you've counted? So we've got sub-working groups dealing with those issues too. So really, as part of this partnership, we're wanting to learn. We have our own thoughts within the government, born out of these interagency groups, and we heard earlier about the value of collaboration. Now what we'd like to do is make sure that we really have industry partnership in this, because you're going down that same road of sustainability with us, and we want to learn as you progress down that, so we can also share with you what we've learned and then also implement so that we don't needlessly go down roads that don't necessarily turn out to be the best ones. So that's some of the other activities that we're doing, and I'd be more than happy to address any questions you may have on what the Section 13 working group is doing. And if you are a federal person and you stayed with us through this time period, as Michelle mentioned, if you have not yet discovered fedcenter.gov, and yet you're in the sustainability space, discover it. It's got tremendous information, and it sends out a daily newsletter, and it's just a wonderful resource that's available for all. So I think,
Yes.
one more question? Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead. Yeah, my name is Eugene Trapp, and I'm with a company called Trinity Industrial Services. I am retired from the Department of Defense as a contracting officer, and also I am a disabled veteran, service-disabled veteran company. What kind of benefits or awards, if I want to partner with you, are there any efforts being made to bring us into the forefront so that we can be a partner with you guys as a service-disabled veteran?
we actually have, to answer that question, an entire desk outside of GSA regional staff who want to explain to you how we can partner together and make sure that you're available on our schedules and available as a solution provider.
The second part to that question, I'm sorry, is we're currently doing an air quality improvement project at Fort Stewart as a service-disabled veteran. And as a service-disabled veteran, they also have set-asides for service-disabled veterans on the FedBiz Ops website. So I just wanted to make sure that if I want to be a partner with you, how can I come in as a partner, and what efforts are being made to ensure that we get a part of it?
Tim, did you want to, is there somebody on your staff that you want to directly, or you yourself?
Yeah, we actually do have members of our staff here. I'm very proud that our region is actually exceeding our socioeconomic goals with respect to small businesses and the categories within. We are definitely very committed to partnering with service-disabled veteran-owned businesses as well as veteran-owned businesses because we, like I said before, we depend on you to help power our economic engine, and there's a lot that you have to offer, and we fully appreciate the set-asides and the preferences in awarding contracts. In fact, GSA actually does have even a veteran-owned business GWAC, government-wide acquisition contract as well. So we have a number of initiatives that support small businesses and veteran-owned businesses as well as service-disabled owned businesses. So we can, I'll be here a little bit afterwards, be happy to talk to you and introduce you to Millie Quinley as well as Denora Gonzalez about next steps. If you're not on our schedules program, and alternatively, if you are on our schedules program, what we can do.
Hi, I'm Jim Hartsfeld. I'm with Interface. I run our Interface Raise consulting organization. I've done some work with you. The first thing I want to say, Sham, is sometimes as a citizen, I absolutely love you guys' acronyms. I just want to be a part of a GWAC, I think. But this is in the mode of the conversation. It struck me something in the conversation you were just having about the partnership, where not only you're trying to create incentives and judge performance that's happening right now, but also catalyzing future innovation and performance. And back in Interface's journey around sustainability and creating our metrics and how do we measure one plant versus another company inside, we created those performance metrics. And Michelle, you probably remember Quest kinds of things. But at the same time, we created these other elements of that metric system that recognized behaviors that we knew that would lead to further innovations. So we had our Quest very quantitative metrics kinds of things, and we had this thing called EcoSense, which were indicators and demonstration of behaviors that we knew would lead to further innovations. And it just struck me in the conversation of how we might potentially capture that idea and use that in your partnership to, again, as I said, yeah, you want to judge and reward the people that are doing it now, but the point of all this is to catalyze more movement and innovation. So just a thought. I don't know what the answer is, but anyway, I just throw that out.
It's a great thought, and it's one that we're, as I said earlier, we're trying to build. I mean, Michelle is doing it on a federal government basis. At GSA, we're trying to inculcate, as you well know, based from the leadership retreat we did last year, sustainability into the DNA of the organization. And in doing that, we are also reviewing our performance plans and making sustainability part of those performance metrics and those plans, so that there's the hardcore quantitative piece coupled with the important qualitative piece, so that ultimately it will be sustainable. Let's just say that beyond my tenure, beyond the administrator's tenure, beyond the president's tenure. That is the goal, and those are great points and ones that we are currently exploring.
And it appears that we have another question online.
The question online comes in from CDC. Will GSA use the greenhouse gas inventory results to evaluate property owners and lessors that lease space to the government? And if you could comment on the way transportation planning factors into the facility evaluation as well.
Yeah, I can mention one thing about sort of our greenhouse gas inventory, and as it relates to our leased facilities, and then also choices about where we lease stuff or where we build stuff. One of the things that the federal government's kind of on the cusp of, related to the president's executive order, the overall executive order on sustainability, which we lovingly know as GreenGov, is to publish the first ever federal-wide greenhouse gas emissions inventory. Again, it's very much in the spirit of, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And in that inventory, we're not only looking at direct emissions, otherwise known as Scope 1 and Scope 2, so building energy use in the stuff we own, fuel use in the fleets that we own. We're also looking at indirect emissions. So those are emissions related to employee travel, to landfill waste, to transmission and distribution losses, which are related to our electricity use, and we're looking at other issues down the line as well that are very, very difficult to measure at this point, but are going to be part of our continuous improvement process. And we know that there are questions around leased properties. There's so many different ways that utility bills get sliced and diced. There's some additional homework that we need to do in terms of how to do those metrics. And similarly, I think we're going to continue to improve the way that we're measuring GHGs associated with employee commuting, which are a very significant percentage of what federal agencies estimated to be their baselines. And I think as we better have a better handle on those numbers, on the actual metrics, then we'll have a better handle on what kind of strategies we might approach to be able to make sure that all those green federal buildings that we've built out there, that GSA is leading the way to help us to renovate as a part of their ambitious agenda, that we're also being cognizant of where they are. Right to the spirit of Sham's comments on being part of vital, sustainable communities, being good neighbors, practicing what we preach, and also thinking about how that relates to employee health and well-being and productivity, and being able to attract the kind of wonderful talent that we want to have as a part of our federal community and retain.
Well said. It goes to show that I think you can see from everything that Michelle said that all of it's on the table. We are committed to helping transition our country to a clean energy economy because it is vital to driving innovation. It is integral to outbuilding, out-educating, and out-innovating our competitors. So in order to do that, we have to take a step back and look at the way we've done things in the past and hit the reset button and see what we can do better going forward. Because ultimately, it's that kind of creative, innovative thinking that I think is going to position us well in terms of the challenges that we have coming down the pipe. So all of it's on the table, and that's why it's exciting. It's exciting to be in federal government. Before I did this, I was a deal lawyer doing multi-billion-dollar deals. Now I'm in government, and what I'm doing now is more exciting than what I did before, because we are truly in a position to leave a lasting legacy with respect to sustainability.
So I think we had, before we break with our closing comments, there was one other question that I just wanted to bring to the forefront. Apparently, Bill, you are singled out in this one. And the question here is there any plans for Bill to speak for Atlanta as far as joining the partnership, and can we even do that? So I'd like to say, if you are desirous of, we have just created a special subsection of partners called Special Partners, and we would love to have your involvement in our partnership.
That is certainly something we're willing to consider. So, thank you.
Then I think I'll hand it over to time for closing comments.
Thank you, Nancy. Oh, okay. Thank you, Nancy. I'm just going to try and keep my remarks limited to close out the day. In his State of the Union address, the President emphasized how important it is for us to out-innovate, out-educate, and out-build our competitors if we're going to maintain our competitive position relative to our global peers. Recently, we've seen unrest in the Middle East and Africa disrupt financial markets and global oil supplies. At the same time, we're seeing the impact that natural disasters can have on global energy supplies, including clean energy. Due to these risks, it is incredibly important that America continue down the path of becoming more and more energy independent. Embracing sustainability and making it part of our country's DNA will help get us there. Doing so will not only strengthen our country's resilience, it will also create green jobs. It will help drive innovation. It will help build the bench strength that we need to be able to accomplish what the President expects us to accomplish. It will help improve our economy and leave a better world for future generations. As a regional administrator for GSA, I am so proud, as you've already heard, to be at an agency that is helping transition our country to a clean energy economy while preserving our energy, national, and climate security. And I am thrilled. I just wish that I could work more with Michelle and others in D.C. on these initiatives. It is great to be on a path with partners like CDC and CEQ, and to be in this administration working for a president and other members of his team who are so committed to helping our country be stronger and more resilient and a better place for future generations. Before I end the day, I would like to thank a few GSA employees, Sandy Jones, Kevin Stallings, Millie Quinley, Denora Gonzalez, and Meredith Lilly for helping put this event together. Michelle and Liz, thank you so much to you and your staff, to CDC, CEQ, for partnering with us on this and for giving us an opportunity to partner with you. I'm sure you're seeing it. I know Michelle, you're definitely seeing it at your level, that this president and the cabinet secretaries and agency heads are absolutely committed to collaboration, which for those of you who, like me, have probably, who may not be familiar with federal government, this is something, from what I've been told, is new and exciting. A lot of people working together to help accomplish a very common, similar mission. So it is great to be partnering with such great institutions on this. Mandy, Bill, thank you for being part of this event. Really appreciate your insights and for all that you're doing in support of sustainability. To those of you who are members of the military, of the armed services, thank you so much for your service in support of our country. We appreciate your sacrifices. We especially appreciate the sacrifices that your families have made so that you can make sure that we have a safe and secure country to live in. For the civil servants in the room, I want to thank you for your service. I know it's very tough these days. You can't open a newspaper or turn on the TV without feeling like you're being denigrated or under attack. I want you to know that the President and that his administration and his appointees truly appreciate everything that you're doing in support of this country and everything that you're doing to be public servants. To the small businesses in this room, thank you for all that you're doing to help power our economic engine and create jobs. It is absolutely vital to our economy that you continue to contribute in a meaningful way, and anything that we can do at GSA, CDC, CEQ, and the rest of federal government to help give you the tools and education that you need so that you can do business with the federal government, so that in collaboration with one another we can power this economic engine together. Please let us know. We are 100% dependent on business for this country to survive, and we would not be where we are but for your contributions, so thank you. Once again, I want to thank everybody in this room for giving us a little bit of your time today. You're clearly part of this mission. You appreciate the movement for change, and we are so delighted to have you with us today. God bless you and the United States of America. Thank you very much for coming today.